A younger girl with a name tag that read LLA responded quickly, bringing over a bottle of water with careful precision. Keanu gently held Buddy's jaw up to help whatever was stuck pass through, but for a heart-stopping moment, nothing happened. Then, with a final heave, Buddy managed to swallow. The immediate crisis passed, but the dog still looked distressed, his eyes unfocused, his tail drooping. It was then that Maggie returned, her face flushed with embarrassment. "I'm so sorry," she said breathlessly. "The kitchen needed me urgently, but I asked LLA to watch him." LLA, looking nervous, stepped forward. "There was a man here," she said hesitantly. "He seemed friendly. He fed the dog a sausage. I thought it was okay." As LLA described the man, a bearded, chubby-cheeked figure with a mohawk, leather gloves, and a vest with a tiger claw insignia, Keanu's blood ran cold. The realization hit him like a punch to the gut. This wasn't an accident. It was deliberate. "Is there a vet nearby?" Keanu asked urgently, his eyes darting between Maggie and LLA, already fearing something else had been hidden in the sausage. They exchanged a quick glance, and Maggie nodded. "There's one about 3 blocks from here," she said, pointing down the street. "Take a left at the next intersection. You can't miss it." Keanu nodded, his mind already racing ahead. He left a generous tip on the table along with money for the bottled water and prepared to leave. But as he stood, Buddy suddenly collapsed, his legs giving out beneath him. The dog's condition deteriorated rapidly. His tail hung limp, his eyes unfocused, and distressed whimpers escaped his throat. Keanu knew they didn't have a moment to lose. Without hesitation, he scooped Buddy into his arms. The dog's substantial weight made the task challenging, but adrenaline lent Keanu strength. With a final nod of thanks to the shocked waitresses, he set off at a run toward the veterinary clinic, praying they wouldn't be too late. Keanu's heart pounded in his chest as he raced through the streets of Brooklyn Heights, Buddy's substantial weight cradled in his arms. The urgency of the situation was clear in his rapid pace and focused determination. Passers-by turned to stare at the sight of a man carrying a large pit bull, but Keanu paid them no mind. His entire world had narrowed down to the precious cargo in his arms and the desperate need to reach the clinic. The 3 blocks to the clinic felt like miles. Sweat beaded on Keanu's forehead, both from exertion and fear. Buddy's condition seemed to worsen with each passing moment, his whimpers growing weaker, his body becoming more limp. Finally, the clinic came into view, its white facade and blue cross sign like a beacon of hope. Keanu burst through the doors, his voice hoarse as he called out, "Please, I need help. My dog's been poisoned." The reception area erupted into action. A woman in scrubs, her name tag identifying her as Dr. Harper, quickly took charge of the situation. "Bring him this way," she directed, leading Keanu to an examination room. "Put him on the table." Keanu gently laid Buddy on the cold metal surface, his hands lingering for a moment on the dog's fur. Dr. Harper immediately began her examination, her movements quick and precise. "Can you tell me what happened?" she asked, her eyes never leaving Buddy as she checked his vital signs. Keanu recounted the events at the cafe as best he could, his words tumbling out in a rush. "Someone fed him something, a sausage, I think, but it must have been laced with something. He started choking, then he just collapsed." Dr. Harper nodded, her face grave. "His pupils are dilated, and his symptoms are consistent with poisoning, likely drug-related, given how quickly it's affecting him." She turned to a nearby nurse. "We need to run blood tests immediately to identify the substance and administer the antidote." As the nurse hurried to carry out the order, Dr. Harper outlined her immediate treatment plan. "We're going to start by giving him activated charcoal to neutralize the poison," she explained. "We'll also put him on 4 fluids to flush the toxins and help stabilize his condition while waiting for the test results." Keanu nodded, trying to process the information through his worry. "Do whatever you need to do," he said. "Just please save him." As the medical team worked on Buddy, Keanu was ushered back to the waiting room. The reality of the situation began to sink in, and with it came the realization that he needed to inform the film crew about what had happened. With shaking hands, he pulled out his phone and dialed the director's number. The conversation was brief, but weighty. Keanu explained the situation, his voice catching as he relayed the seriousness of Buddy's condition. The director's initial frustration at the disruption to the shooting schedule quickly gave way to concern. "Don't worry about the shoot," the director assured him. "We'll reschedule. Just take care of Buddy and Keanu. Make sure you document everything. We might need it for insurance or legal reasons." After ending the call, Keanu arranged for the dog keeper to come to the clinic. He knew they would need to properly document the incident, both for the production and in case they decided to pursue legal action against Buddy's attacker. As he settled in for what promised to be an anxious wait, Keanu couldn't help but reflect on how quickly the day had spiraled out of control. What had started as a simple walk had turned into a life-or-death situation. And somewhere out there, the man responsible for this was still free. Keanu's jaw clenched at the thought. He had always prided himself on being a peaceful person, on choosing diplomacy over confrontation. But in this moment, as he waited to hear if Buddy would survive, he found himself wrestling with a desire for justice, or was it vengeance, that he had rarely experienced before. The minutes ticked by slowly, each one feeling like an eternity as Keanu waited for news about Buddy's condition. Ruthless biker kicked a dog for fun, unaware Keanu Reeves is the owner. When a ruthless biker kicked a dog for fun, he had no idea the dog belonged to Keanu Reeves. What began as a peaceful afternoon stroll would quickly escalate into a dramatic confrontation, proving once again why you should never mess with a man's dog. The concrete walls of Brooklyn Heights trapped the day's heat, wrapping the bustling John Wick film set in a sweltering embrace. The air carried the scent of hot asphalt mingled with the faint aroma of street food from nearby vendors. Camera equipment and cables were scattered across the ground, snaking like dormant serpents. "That's a wrap for the scene, folks," the director's voice cut through the hum of activity. "Take a 1-hour lunch break and meet back here for the next shoot." A collective sigh of relief rippled through the crew, who had been hard at work since dawn. As the team dispersed, voices filled the air with chatter about lunch plans. A group gathered near the catering truck. "Hey, Keanu," someone called out. "We're heading to that new deli on Atlantic Avenue. Want to join us?" Keanu Reeves turned to the voice, his trademark smile lighting up his face. But his attention soon shifted to Buddy, the pit bull, who had been in their scenes. Panting heavily in the heat, Buddy's tongue lolled out as he sought some relief. "You guys go ahead," Keanu said, his eyes staying on Buddy. "I think I'll take care of this four-legged friend here. He looks like he could use a walk." The dog keeper, a lanky man with a clipboard, stepped forward. "That's all right, Mr. Reeves. I can handle Buddy, it's my job after all." Keanu held up a hand, his expression earnest. "I'd like to do it if that's okay. It'll help me bond with him for our upcoming scenes," he said. Then, after a thoughtful pause, he added, "Plus, I've always been curious about what it's like to own a dog, even if it's just for a short while." "One, certainly. Here's a rephrased version of your script with slight adjustments to the word order, while keeping the same style, tone, and natural flow." He began to form a plan. He had connections, people who could handle this situation officially and safely. Sheriff Hank Morrison, in particular, stood out as someone with the authority and experience to deal with situations like this. Turning back to the employee, Keanu made his decision. "Listen, I think I know someone who can help." The employee nodded, a glimmer of hope appearing in his eyes. "Who are you going to call?" Keanu gave him a reassuring smile. "Someone who can put an end to this legally and safely. Just keep your head down and stay safe. Help's on the way." With that, Keanu stepped away from the bar and dialed Sheriff Hank Morrison's number. His fingers moved with purpose as the phone rang. "Hank," Keanu said when the call connected, his voice low and urgent. "It's Keanu. I need your help with a situation in Brooklyn Heights." His conversation with Hank was brief, but intense. Keanu outlined the events of the day, his voice tight with urgency. He explained the attack on Buddy and the likely presence of illegal substances. "The bikers who poisoned the dog are at a bar called Iron and Ash," Keanu said. "They probably have more substances with them." Sheriff Morrison's voice came through the phone, calm but serious. "I understand, Keanu. Don't do anything rash. Stay put and don't engage. We'll be there soon." Keanu agreed, ending the call with a sense of relief. He trusted Hank to handle the situation professionally. Now, all he had to do was wait. As he put his phone away, Keanu noticed the employee watching him, a mixture of hope and fear in his eyes. The man approached hesitantly. "Did you call the police?" the employee asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Keanu nodded, but before he could say anything more, the employee's face contorted in panic. "No, you can't. The business isn't good with the police here. The boss will." Keanu cut him off gently but firmly. "Think about what you're saying. What's left to protect here? A business that can't even ensure basic security for its staff? That allows criminals to threaten the community?" The employee fell silent, unable to answer. Keanu continued, his voice softening. "There should be real security guards outside, not employees like you being put in harm's way. This isn't right, and you know it." The employee nodded slowly, the truth sinking in. "You're right," he admitted quietly. Just then, the distant wail of sirens grew louder, and within minutes, multiple police cars arrived. Officers poured out of the vehicles, their movements coordinated and purposeful. The element of surprise worked in their favor. Before the bikers could react, the officers had secured the premises. Keanu watched as the police entered the bar, and within moments, the chaos inside became evident. Tables were overturned, and patrons were corralled. The search was thorough, and snippets of conversation between officers mentioned significant quantities of illegal substances, as well as organized distribution. As the arrests unfolded with professional efficiency, Keanu felt a mixture of emotions. Relief that justice was being served, satisfaction that the threat to the community was being neutralized, and lingering anger at what had been done to Buddy. The officers led the suspects away, one by one, their rights read as they were placed into police vehicles. Keanu, now aware of the growing crowd, slipped on his sunglasses to avoid recognition. He had done what he came to do, and now it was time to step back and let the law take its course. As the last of the bikers was led away, Keanu's thoughts shifted back to Buddy. With the immediate threat neutralized, he could now focus on ensuring the dog's recovery and safe return to the film set. With one last look at the scene, he began his walk back to the clinic. The day had taken an unexpected turn, but Keanu felt a sense of closure. Those responsible for Buddy's condition would face justice.